Hello, 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 ladies and gentlemen. Thank you for hitting that play button for another episode of the Hetty Coleman podcast, where I sit down with fabulous people to help go win conversations. Go win is being consistent in doing the right things that allow for you to achieve the wins that you have defined for your life so that you can live out your greatest story. Two things for sure. I want to see you learn and I want to see you inspired from these conversations. Today, ladies and gentlemen, I get the great opportunity to sit down with the very brilliant Sarah Sears, also very photogenic, as we have spoken about today. Sarah, how are you doing today?
I'm great.
Good.
Great.
Thank you for making the trip down from Oklahoma City, right?
Yeah.
You're not in Edmond. You're in Oklahoma City.
I'm in Oklahoma. Just in uptown, Oklahoma City, near downtown, and I love it. Yeah.
Uptown. So, are you a person that likes? Like, I had a real estate lifestyle, whatever they call them, a realtor, let's say.
Oh, yeah.
Uh-huh. And he was talking about people buying places based on the lifestyle that they want to live. So, like, are you do you want walkability?
Yes.
Yes.
I want to ride my bike around.
Yes. Yeah, for me too. I like to be able to walk to the grocery store, walk to the barber, walk to the coffee shop.
Yeah, I love it.
I really enjoy those things. We live just a little bit too far out where I can't just walk to work and do those things anymore. But I loved when we lived closer to town and could do that.
Yeah, I've always lived really pretty close to my work, but now I live in the neighborhood that my grandmother lived in. So I went to kindergarten in that neighborhood.
Wow!
And so a lot of times I love to walk around by my grandmother's old house.
Oh yeah.
And it's funny because, I have memories of looking down the sidewalk and running down the sidewalk when I was 4 years old, It's just great.
So I grew up in Guthrie too. So it's
yeah.
cool whenever I go by our old house or going down these streets. I'm like, they used to seem so big. Mm-hmm. I'm like, they're not as big as I thought it was. Like the streets we would race down, I thought we were racing forever, like running forever. And now it's like.
Or feeling like, okay, you're going to have to walk to school. And you'd be like, I have to walk that far.
Yes.
And now I'm like, okay, this is just a few blocks.
Yes.
It's really not that far.
Yes. Like, seriously, we would sometimes have to walk home from the high school and I thought it was forever. And now I'm like, that was not. My kids get on their scooter and they're in 5 minutes,
right.
And so, yeah.
I love that. I feel like there's a lot of people that in Oklahoma that have kind of, either come back or never left. And it's a really great group of people.
No, it's good to see that. Oklahoma City's like, it just seems like it's really coming together right now.
Oh, yeah. I see things all the time. And I'm like, okay, something needs to happen with that. But it's crazy. I was just talking to someone yesterday and I said, you would not recognize it.
Yeah, that's been gone for a while.
Yeah. So
it's
just changed so much and it's so fun. All the little restaurants and all the coffee shops and the music coming back is big for us. We're big music people. I'm a big music person. So
do you have a favorite district in Oklahoma City, right? Like the Willow District, Plaza District? No.
I like all the districts. I just think it's like, what is your mood? What do you want to do?
Yeah. Where are you vibing at right now?
Right.
Are you a Plaza District vibe, Willow District vibe?
There's things to do. There's times, there's certain events and there's things to do.
That's good.
So it's kind of like, what are you in the mood for? What do you want to go do today?
Yeah.
I like all the different things. My first office was in the Paseo, so I'm kind of partial to that.
Okay.
Just because I remember being down there when, I had to have police walk me to my car and stuff. But I loved it. I loved it. And so to see it now, like really thriving is really fun.
I just met with some people and one of them worked at a restaurant in the Paseo. And they said I should come eat there. I can't remember the name of it right now. But so
we got a Holy Rollers on Sunday.
Oh, the donut? Is that the donuts? Yeah.
We ride, And when it's nice out, we've been riding our bikes over there and it's really fun.
Oh, that's cool.
There's still people that give you some looks like, are you riding your bike across 23rd Street? But you just got to do it. And then more people will be like, oh yeah, I'm going to do that.
Yeah.
So
that's not bad.
You got to just do it.
You got to do it. We need people out there doing it so others can be inspired to take action
so
to
fun.
do it.
When you ride a bike, you feel like you're 10 years old.
Oh,
again.
yes.
It's so great.
Just feel free. And
Yeah.
you just kind of go like this down the road and
Yeah.
just kind of have fun. Yeah.
So
now,
great.
do you ever ride without no hands? Yeah.
And with my eyes closed.
Oh,
But don't tell anyone. Yeah. Only for a split second.
You're really good, Sarah. You're really good.
But do you know, when you're just, it's just this moment where you're like, I can just close my eyes for 1 second. It's fine. There's no one here. It's early morning. It's just like, it's so great.
No, that's cool. I love it. I love it. Now, Paseo, you had an office back when it kind of started coming back to life. Tell us what kind of office, was that you first started your own business or?
Yeah. And I worked out of my house first and then I found this cute little office on the Paseo. Tom Lee, who used to be real active down there, he's since passed away, but he was an amazing guy, and he bought the Avalon building, which is the one that's right next door to Frida. It's a little blonde building, and he restored that building. It was like the first building that really had been restored, and he owned he had property down there. He was also a photographer, and he anyway. So when that building opened, I was one of the first tenants, and I'm still friends with people that were in there with me back then. But
that's cool.
Yeah. But it was, it was still pretty rough down there,
Yeah.
It was pretty rough, but I loved it. Yeah.
Tell us what kind of work you do for those who are listening.
Well, my background is design, and that's what I studied in college. And so that has kind of evolved, I guess, over the years. So from corporate identity and, promotional type work to brand, which, for us included a lot of marketing strategy, brand strategy, and just implementation of, kind of everything in that customer journey. And then even digital stuff. And then that's kind of evolved for us into more design thinking and how that expands into organizations and culture and systems and identifying opportunities and possibilities and bringing those to life. So it's just kind of changed over the years. But design is at the heart of it, and that's where my passion is. Yeah.
Now, one of the things you mentioned when we were on our call before this interview yesterday, you talked about marketing and design not being the same. And I think for people like me, oftentimes we think marketing and design are the same.
Right. Well, I think of design as a problem-solving process. So I think marketing is part of that. I think a lot, and there's different parts of design. So I think a lot of times when you say design, people think interior design, or they think fashion design, or they think graphic design. When you really start to look at things, if you looked at a brand that, let's say, was a retail brand, you would understand that it's really all of those things.
Gotcha.
Because the clothing that you wear reflects that, and the way that you act with people, represents that brand. And the marketing to me is a component of that, where you're saying we need to reach these people. How do we reach them? And then measuring those things and really understanding all the platforms that those have to be on, how all of those things need to work together to meet certain goals.
Yeah.
And so that's part of it. It's a very important part of it, is understanding how we're going to market this and how we're going to track it. But I think of design, when you think of brand is more the idea of your organization, or the idea of who you are in your customer's mind, And so you're often, there's only room for one or two in that person's mind.
Yeah.
So you're trying to position yourself for that prime real estate, or you're trying to open up a space in someone's mind for something that's never existed before. And
so wait, okay. When I'm trying to open up somebody's mind to, let's say, for example, podcasting, a lot of people don't have a podcast, and I'm like, no, you need a podcast, because if you have a podcast, it may help you solve the problem of consistency online with your social media or this, that.
Right.
So now I'm trying to open up people's mind who they like, oh, never thought about it. Is that what you mean?
Yes. if they've never thought about it, then they're not really in that space. They're not, it's not really part of what they think about.
Yeah.
And this is part of knowing, knowing who your audience is, right? So, is it easier for you to convince someone to get a podcast, or is it easier for you to find people that need a podcast that love podcasts? It's like the low-hanging fruit.
Yeah. Yeah.
And possibly, but not everyone, maybe not everyone should have a podcast.
Yeah. No.
So you would have to figure out, I've talked about this to you a little bit, but like I've had people tell me you'd be good at a podcast. I like to talk.
Yeah.
So I think those things kind of align, right? Maybe I like to interview people. I like to have coffee with
You
people.
should have a podcast. You don't have a podcast.
I don't have a podcast.
Sarah Sears
so
podcast.
I might be a good, target for you. But not everybody, some people don't like to talk.
Yeah.
So that would not be a good audience.
For sure.
It's much easier. I just think everything can be pretty easy if you find the right if you're
the right person,
and the right audience. It's kind of like in sales, right? Which again, I think of things as like a giant ecosystem where everything is working together.
Mm-hmm.
So even when you think of sales, and I don't like to think about sales, but when you think about it, it's just helping people, right?
Yeah.
If you think about it, it's just educating and helping people to sort and find the person they need. So if it's not you, maybe it's a referral to someone. Maybe you're good at saying like, oh, you're like this.
Yeah.
I have this person that's more like that.
Yeah.
You would work better with them, so I don't know.
And that's okay to do.
Absolutely.
Because it's in the long
that's
run,
good sales.
I
mean, that's actually good sales, but people don't think about it like that. In a business, you got to do sales. So I think you got to figure out the thing that's comfortable for you, and do it in a way that feels good,
Now, this wasn't a question that we talked about, but I just want trying to add value to people and people who are out there who may be business owners, but also have this feeling of I don't like sales. What do you do to overcome? You've been for example, how long have you been in business?
My friend Catherine Brown.
Okay, that's you go out. What do you do when you can always hire somebody though, right?
Sure. But I do think that it's helpful to, in my many iterations of business, I've had people that worked with me and I've hired people to try to help me do that. I think in my type of business, I think people really want to talk to me just because of the way that the type of business I'm in. But that being said, I found some people that we worked really good as a team, and they were great business development people. Again, everything's just, I feel like there's a lot of serendipity and fluke involved. You got to find the right people to do that with, and you have to put a process to it if it's not going to be you doing it. You've got to get your brain that process and all your thinking down, and find someone who can really embody that and cares as much about the customer as you do. And know.
Yeah. No, that's good. I love yesterday you said brand is what people think about you in their minds.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So as much, people will say sometimes, I need a brand. I say, oh, you have one. It just may not be the one that you want to have, right?
We all have a brand, right? People think of us in some way.
Right.
Or your business in some way.
Right.
Or you may just not have as many people thinking about your business as you would like. But to some people, you're a brand. Yeah.
Those are all things that you need to consider. And all of those things like PR and marketing and all those things kind of roll up under there with different specific things, but they all have to work together.
Yeah.
Have you ever, everyone's done this, I know, but where you maybe have a call with someone and you're going to go meet them and you pull up and one thing at a time, it's just not what you expected.
Yeah. Yeah.
And it could be either good or bad. It could be like you kind of had this vision in your mind that it was going to be so nice. You pull up, it's just like weeds everywhere and like a piece of lawn furniture broken. And you're thinking, that is not what I expected.
Uh-huh.
And vice versa. You might have an experience where you're talking to someone and then you show up and you think, wow, this is incredible. Like everything is really well thought through, and like those things are. I don't know. There's a book called Blink by Malcolm Gladwell. Have you read that book? And I think I love that book so much because I can remember I lugged that book around for months, and I just kept rereading it and until it was covered with sand and water. But there's this one part of that book where he talks about when you walk into a room, your brain has already gone through thousands of thoughts in the first second that you step into a space. And for me as a designer, I thought, this is design. This is brand. All of those things are possibilities, opportunities, and there's a way to think about them and put a plan in place and make them happen.
Yeah.
Whether it's interior design or experience design or graphic design or it's all being being intentional and then solving that problem. So
now I hear you say that there's a few different ways that you may work with someone.
Sure.
Can you just kind of share what that look like? What is the main thing you do, and kind of share kind of what that, let's say that you're working with me, what would be the service that you provide me as Heady Media?
Well, traditionally people will come to me because they have an idea about something that they think that they need.
Okay.
And they may need that.
Yeah.
And then we go through, we always do a discovery process at the beginning of a project, because we may say, okay, we can do that for you. This is what we see this looking like. We may give you some options. And when we give you those options, you might see, yes, you said, this is what I need. And we said, okay, we can do that for you. But we may show you some ideas for some options that open up your mind, expand your mind a little bit, right?
Yeah.
So think, oh, I hadn't considered that. And depending on where you are in your business, you may or may not want to do that. But now you have a little bit bigger picture of what that might look like and how those things work together, right?
Yeah.
So for instance, in the simplest terms, someone might come to us and say, we need a brochure or we need a pamphlet for something. They have a reason that they think that they need something. And I'll start asking questions. I might ask about where all the other pamphlets are and find out that they're in boxes in a storeroom and they haven't been handed out to anyone because they're too expensive for each piece of paper. You know how people think about things?
Yeah.
And this is just an older example or the simplest example, right? But then, my head is going to, well, where are the people that need these pamphlets? Where are they? Are they at a conference? Are they, do they have houses you can send these to? In your storage closet is not the place for these. And then, if people think, well, that didn't really help. That money I invested to do that thing didn't really help because they didn't really understand the system. They didn't understand how to get those. There's so many more steps in that customer journey than just handing someone a piece of paper.
Yeah.
So if they can start to see that maybe you don't need a piece of paper, maybe you need a text message, or maybe you need a website, or maybe you need to go write thank you notes to people, or maybe you need, there's a million different things you could do based on budget or scope.
Yeah.
Maybe you need to have your whole team for a weekend retreat to figure out, how to refocus your business because you have a competitor that is eating your lunch over here,
Yeah.
And you need to figure out, like, where's our blue ocean? Where do we go now?
Yeah.
Like, do we try to take this person on head to head, or this organization on head to head, or do we, find a different way to reframe it and just blow past them next year? That's the stuff I get super excited about. But you never, but people come with all kinds of things, and, if they're not the right fit, we can refer them to somebody, but it just depends. You just never know too.
Yeah.
You never know until you start talking to someone.
For sure. And start
what
asking
they
questions.
need, and and can, where they are in that process. And what the opportunities are. So
I love the brochure thought. Like, it's so true. Like, you have thousands of old brochures, but you want to go make a new brochure. And I'm like, so.
And also, sustainability. Like, let's just, and people get, I'm like, just go recycle that. Just take that to a recycling bin.
You just,
and
but they don't want, because
if it's 6 months old, you're done.
Yeah. Yeah. No, that's so true. And then I think, then we come back and we say, hey, we need a new brochure. And I think it's just because we haven't had anybody who walks us through a discovery phase of asking questions and like really getting us to start thinking. And one of the things you and I talked about was the design thinking.
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm.
Is that kind of what that is, as far as like looking at the big? I'm a David Kelly fan.
Uh-huh.
IDEO is it IDEO?
Uh-huh.
And
yes.
so just how, and I really don't know it. I think I just like watching them. I'll go to their website.
There's a lot to learn. I mean, I've been following design thinking since I was a little baby designer. And, back then we barely had the internet, right? So I remember getting in design thinking groups and like following along. And then, that website would go away. And I'd be like, where are the people? Where are all these people? And now it's fun because you can find all that stuff on LinkedIn. And so,
but is that what you just kind of talked about? Is that the design thinking? Because I think early, like one of the things that caught my attention was I think they worked with Apple with their mouse, right? And they walked.
So they're doing product design, product development.
But the questions though, like, okay, what's going to make the mouse comfortable? How do you move the mouse, and what is it working with? And same kind of thought process, right?
Yes. I mean, if you think about from the very design thinking it's going actually through another change right now, because if you can imagine, I mean, we started out with very simple problems, right? And so the design thinking of thinking through a pamphlet or a brochure or a poster design is very simple. Who are we designing for? Where is it going to be? How big can it be? How many colors can I print with? I mean, it was very simple questions, right?
Yeah, but I don't ask myself any of those questions until now. I'm going to be asking myself these questions all the time.
I will ask you this question. But then you kind of, get beyond these simple problems to then, you're talking about organizations, right? It's starting to be a little bit more three-dimensional. We're thinking about design in an organization. We're thinking about products like a mouse. We're thinking about customer journeys and processes like online products, like experiences that I'm going to go through online. Like I need to find out about these things. You need me to push these buttons and pull these triggers to get to where I need to go, right? And then there's people that have to relate to that. It starts to get more complicated. And now we're looking at problems that are, if you can imagine, you're kind of looking at things in a 1 dimension, 2 dimension, 3 dimension. And now you have problems that are big world problems, big things that we have to solve for, social things, like all kinds of things. And so you've got different ecosystems, and you've got systems within those systems. And then you get all the way back down to the brochure, to the simple project, right? But those things can get, you've got culture in organizations. So I think that's the kind of stuff that IDEO has been working on for a very long time, where they start with a mouse and they start observing people.
Yeah.
That whole design thinking process is about discovery, right? And about not just metrics like quantitative things, but qualitative, really watching people and observing how people use things. And you just learn a lot.
Yeah.
And what things are similar, we're all different. We all see the world through a different lens. We see the world through different cultures. So starting to think about when you're on a project, like, first I'm going to look and I'm going to see what is the problem. The problem is usually not the problem we think it is at the beginning, right?
Yeah.
So you kind of have to look for a while, and then you reframe it, and then you say, oh, the problem is really, could the problem be more like this?
Yeah.
And then, what would it look like if we solved that problem?
Yeah.
What impact would that have?
Yeah.
And that could be around anything, from a small business to something that's, a government or, all kinds of things. So, But that learning to see that process is really fun.
Yeah.
For everyone.
Yeah. So in that, I think one of the things that I hear, and I may be wrong, you just tell me anytime that I'm wrong, because I'm just asking questions.
Sure.
Because now this has just become about me.
Well, you tell me if I'm wrong.
This podcast has become, I'm just trying to learn from you now. But talking about the audience, which is so key to this, right? To be successful, you got to know your audience, because who are you selling to?
Right.
Why do they want your brochure? What's in that brochure, or the information that is going to help them solve whatever problem? What are some ways that you've learned that people can learn who their audience is?
Well, when people perk up when you're talking about what you do, that's a signal, right? So in the very simplest form, I think just, being mindful and paying attention to those interactions, right? You can tell when someone's turned off and they're like, don't sell to me.
Yeah.
You can tell when someone's like, tell me more about that. That's really interesting. And then if you start to really take an opportunity to make it about them, right? So you take time, you notice and you see and you think this is an opportunity to interview someone who cares about what I'm doing. Why is it important to them? So you can start to ask them questions right then. I mean, there's obviously a more formal way to do this, but, I went back a couple of years ago when we were going to redo our website, and I just went back and thought, who are people that I know that fit this profile of, the type of person that might hire us. And for me, I think those are different people within an organization that either have a hard time marketing because their brand is out of date, or have a hard time attracting new employees because their culture needs to shift, or the internal communications need to evolve. And, so I went and interviewed those people just, for a half an hour, whatever they would give me, sometimes an hour, because we just were talking.
Yeah.
And I recorded those, and I got their permission to record them. But then you go through and you hear them say, this is what you ask them, what are your challenges? These are my challenges. That's great information, right? Because your job is to be in business to help people solve their problems.
Yeah.
And they're telling you what their problems are. And I think if you look at, it doesn't take a ton. You look at 10 people and you go, oh, wow, they all have these 2 challenges or this one challenge. And that challenge aligns with what I do. And then you start to see like, well, these people would be good customers, but these are not. So what are the things that they have in common? And you start to develop what we would call a persona, around that.
Yeah.
What is that type of person? What do they do? What do they think? What do they feel? And then I think like your salespeople are your front line for this, because they're the one talking to people all the time. Or your customer service people, when someone calls with a complaint, that's such a gift.
Yeah.
It's like, get in there and figure out like, where did we mess up? How can we make this better for you? Those are all just ways to say, how do we do that in our way?
Yeah.
That's going to make our brand more resilient and more meaningful, more human.
I love it. I love it. That's good. I think a lot of people need to hear this. So just especially maybe those, I think like people who listen oftentimes to my podcast are people who are still in the early phase or just trying to learn like new ways of doing things, the whole discovery. So one of the things we talk about with Go In is defining your win and discovering your goal. And the go, yeah.
It's all the same stuff. It's not rocket.
No,
it's just a lot to learn if you're a young entrepreneur. It's kind of like drinking through a fire hose. I mean, it's a lot of information, but I think if you just break it down to the simplest things, and then as businesses grow, you learn how to do those things in a more for scale. But
yeah. Well, we talked about 5 right things around design, and you're going to share those things. But before we do that, like, how has technology and AI changed since you've been in your work, and especially this AI craze? I don't know how you're going about with this AI thing, or just from your perspective, have you gave it much thought? Or
I have. I think it's interesting. I mean, I think sometimes I hear fear around it, but
yeah,
I'm more curious, and I understand there's probably things to be concerned about and things to be careful about. But I think I've been watching a lot of peers experimenting on it. I really haven't had the time. I just haven't done that this year. But I feel like this year there was just a big burst of new tech in that area.
Yeah.
And the part that's interesting to me is seeing it as a tool to complement what you're already doing, right? So it's a way to, I think if you're good at art direction and creative direction and are articulate about that, you can really use the things that AI does, where it can go find those things and put them together for you so that maybe you could just use it to ideate or to get to the next idea. I don't really see it replacing good writing and good design in that sense right now, because I just think there are certain things that happen. I mean, happen where you take two things that you would never think of together. I mean, those things aren't going to be part of an algorithm, that human way of being with things. But there are some things that don't require that, that maybe you start using it for those things. But I've been watching it. I've been really watching it. It's come a long way since I was in college and was doing everything by hand.
I love the way you're thinking about it, though. It's like, use it as a tool. Use it to help you do your work. And I think that's what most people, the way most people should be thinking about it, It's
always been that way, though. I mean, for those of us that, we're doing things by hand, and then people are like, oh, you're not going to have a job anymore because there's going to be a computer, whatever. And then, so for each iteration of that, you kind of start to realize, okay, it's not taking my job. It's just now I'm not spending 20 hours a week doing that mundane task. I get to do something else. So I think we'll evolve with it. And I love sci-fi, but, I hope the crazy sci-fi stuff can stay on in the movie. But
it kind of reminds me too of people, photographers, when phones started, now we all have a camera in our pocket and people use it for their photo shoots or whatever. But, the clients who want real photos are coming for a photographer. And
well, I mean, I'm a pretty decent amateur photographer, but I'm always going to hire a photographer for when we're doing professional work. I mean, it's just, you can tell the difference. Even as cameras, get better and better, and the hardware and software gets better. It's still, and people have an incredible eye, and they're telling a story, and they're doing it in a way. I think that's it too. Is that, without that talented human that is curious and looking to do things in interesting and fresh ways, you end up with this homogenous, even if it's, you can look back at, photos from 5 years ago and it's like, oh, why does that look so old?
Yeah.
But it's just because we continue to push ourselves to do better work. And I don't know.
Yeah.
You want to start with the best.
Yeah.
When you're doing that, for sure.
For sure. So we talked about 5 right things around design.
Sure.
And if you would just kind of share those 5 things, and then we'll go back through them and just kind of slowly talk about them, just kind of go deeper with them. Okay.
Okay.
Yeah. So what are those 5 right things around design that you have?
Understanding your purpose and your why. I just, in the way that I think about design and design thinking, you're building, a certain amount of stuff. It's almost like building a house, right?
Yeah.
You can't build a house without a foundation. And especially with so many things going on in the world, so many things driving our attention, it's so easy to get, pulled in different directions if you're not careful. And so being really grounded in your purpose for your business and having that written down and knowing why, like, why are we here? Like, what's the point of all this? I just think it's really important because everything has to follow that lead. And, when you start talking about just values and goals and culture and everything, you want it all to be pointing in the same direction. So,
Gotcha.
Yeah. So that's the number 1. Number 2 is get clear on your values. I've just spent a lot of time thinking about, we've always used values as part of our work, but just the more complicated things get, the more I think values are where things connect. I buy things because I value that thing, or I want to buy it from a company whose values fit with mine. I don't want to spend money on on things that are not in alignment with that.
Yeah.
And so, and I think a lot of people think that way. So I think that's become really important to understand what your values are and to live into those values, especially with, employees and things. And then have that align with your positioning, your strategy, your purpose. Knowing your audience, we talked about this a little bit, but I think sometimes that feels abstract. Like it feels like this group of people, but they're all human beings. They have feelings about things. So knowing who those people are and staying in front of them and talking to them is really important. And then testing your ideas. I think, when people that do agile work in tech, they work in that way, but just doing things faster. The world is speeding up, and just being not afraid to put your idea down, work through it and get to a point where, okay, we're ready to test this, and just put something out quickly and see how your audience responds to it. And this can be super simple. I've done some work this year over the last few years with Marty Newmeyer, and he would tell us about how when he did package design for HP and some of these companies, like they would come up with a whole bunch of designs, and then they would narrow it down to like 4 or 5, and then they would just comp them up and go stick them, on the shelf and just camp out for one day with the owner of the business, maybe a couple of people from the marketing department, and them, and they would just watch which package do they pick up. They didn't, interact with them, and then they would afterwards. They said, they would pick it up and they would ask them, why did you pick that up? Right. But then they started to realize they had very different audience groups for the different types of software. And then they were able to start, after they're collecting that data over time, they could tell you, if a package is designed for an engineer, it's got to have all those little details on the outside of the package. If it's designed for a teacher, they want something that feels more childlike, that feels friendly. And, they just knocked it out of the park with that package design. I mean, but again, it doesn't have to be that complicated. So testing, just getting things out there and starting to see how people act to them. And then that infinity loop of just understanding and improving and adding that to your knowledge base, right?
Yeah.
And then standards. I kind of started in the corporate identity type world. So a standards manual to me is pretty sexy.
Okay.
Most people do not feel that way.
That wasn't the word. That wasn't the thought that came to mind when you said it, but yeah.
And I had this idea of like policing your brand. You could like dress up like a cop and give people, citations for, using the wrong color or putting, unicorns on their emails. But, I don't think people would appreciate that. But standards are really important. It's like the telephone game. If you say one thing and then people change it, and it comes out the other end, it's something totally different. So standards just around messaging is how we talk about it. You're really good at this. You're very consistent. But just here's how we talk about ourselves. And then being it's almost like an evolution, right? These are the foundational things that they're not going to change unless we go through an exercise or learn more or have feedback. And then we can be very intentional about changing these over time. I mean, brands do evolve over time, and they need to because the world is always changing. But doing that in a thoughtful manner and understanding this is why we're doing it, because perception is changing or the world is changing or, but that consistency is so important.
Gotcha.
So
that's good. Okay. So we're going to go back over these. Okay. And if there's any extra thought, but at least we'll have them kind of numbered out and kind of saying them out loud. And so number 1 was understand your purpose and why. And somebody else recently talked about the importance of the why. But when we do a go win session, we always say, if you lose your why, you lose your way.
You do.
So, so if you're not able to come back to why am I doing this, sometimes you just kind of float into the sky if you don't really have that clear why or purpose.
Well, and I think the why is also where you get the I mean, that's where the goosebumps come from, right? I mean, that's where you you're doing something that's important to you and you want to attract people to help you on that, in that goal, right? In that purpose, that care about the same things, So really, that purpose is where you get all of that. I don't even know what it's called. That charisma and that, you want everything to be meaningful.
Yeah.
That meaning,
Yeah.
right? Why are we here?
Yeah.
And you want all of those things to line up with that. Like your mission, your values need to all support that.
Yeah.
You can't have a purpose that's one thing and then have a value set that doesn't reinforce that.
Yeah.
So
they don't align.
Yeah. So I think it ends up being, your true north in a way, that North Star to help everybody remember why we're here.
Mm-hmm. Is it, have you, and I don't know what this looks like, but how often, like when you have a town hall, now they talk about having these town hall meetings in your company as in the sense of bringing everybody together. Mm-hmm. How often do you bring that why? Have you ever?
I think you would do I would just have that front and center.
Yeah.
I think some people do it really well when they just reinforce, it sounds goofy, I think, for people when they start doing it. Oh, we're going to say that every time.
Mm-hmm.
But I do think that especially with people changing jobs all the time, it's just nice to come together and say, this is who we are, this is why we're here, and then start. It doesn't have to be lengthy, but I think having that, when you have all that organized and thought out, then it just reminds people, oh, this is the lens also, right? This is the lens I'm looking through today. This is what we're here for.
Yeah. That's good.
Yeah.
That's good. Is there a question to help people kind of learn their why? Like, is that something like you should just know your why? Or is there a discovery in that?
I mean,
as far as that purpose and why.
I like Simon Sinek. He has that book on why, and he has a new book that's kind of a workbook to kind of work through that. Also, I mean, there's a lot of places to kind of find that, but I think one of the easiest ones, and I mean, this is nothing new. I'm just regurgitating.
Yes, that's fine.
But ask why 5 times.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. Because if I asked you, I'm like, so tell me about, what is the other thing that I've used in the past is, what I tell people, why are you in business beyond making money?
Yeah, that's good.
Because I mean, you do have to make money.
Yeah, you
to run a business. But I think, and some people are focused on the money, and some people are not focused on the money at all. It just depends on kind of how you're wired. But that's a question we always ask in our discovery is, why are you in business beyond making money? And then every time they answer, we say why. And it's like you just kind of get deeper and deeper into that until you're like, okay, I think we got it.
And that's a process, right? And you got to be patient with it, and you kind of got to allow yourself to keep asking yourself the same question over and over versus thinking like, okay, that's enough.
And a lot of times we'll go through these exercises kind of every year. If I also think cadence is good, right? So every year kind of going through your strategic plan. And even if you just touch on those and say, is that still my purpose? Yeah. A purpose should not change for a business. If a purpose changes for a business, it's a different business.
Gotcha.
Whereas, your goals are going to change.
Yeah.
Yeah. And your mission could evolve over time. Like if you have a purpose and you have a mission behind that purpose, and after 10 or 15 years, that mission you've done well, and that mission is mostly resolved, then if your purpose is still the same, you would just update your mission.
Yeah. Yeah. That's good. That's good. Number 2, clear on your values, positioning, and strategy.
Yeah, that's a lot, isn't it? Let's just talk about that's a lot. I mean, I think the strategy is just important. Like, what kind of business do you have? What is the environment that business is in? Who are your competitors? Like, you've got to know all of that so you can know, how do we show up, or do we need to change radically? Do we need to are we in a crowded space?
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
Because if you're in a crowded space, then you really need to move.
Yeah.
You don't want to put that much money behind, trying to hedge out, people that already have 90% of a market. Like there's no room in that market for you.
Mm-hmm.
So you really got to get clear on, your environment.
Yeah.
Right. And your positioning, and that just like, how are we different from everyone else? I mean, I think the best scenario that I've seen lately in thinking about this is just like, if you can go where there's no competition, where it's a win-win, you're going to like this.
Yeah.
A win-win for everybody.
Yeah.
Then that's the best place to be.
Yeah.
Where there's just, you're not really you're not having to be in, I got to watch my back all the time, or I'm head to head trying to outspend money on marketing with somebody.
Yeah.
That's not a good place to be.
Yeah.
So anyway, so that's what I talk about. But values, I think, are really interesting. I read this book last year that was, this woman has written a book. I wish I could remember the name of it. It's like Global Values or something. But she basically wrote a book that talked about the value, the values for each company. For each country in the world. So if you think about it, we're all on the planet Earth, but we all come from a specific culture. Each culture has values. And then those businesses that are in that culture, that differentiation in values, depending on what country you're from, would change the value, the lens of the values in that company and those citizens and all of the, we're just people.
Yeah.
We're just people interacting with each other. So I think that's really interesting, especially if you're doing work in different countries or on teams where there's people from different places, and just being able to understand, the role that those values play on a human level, as in, with people that you work with or maybe collaborating with, also with the people that you might be selling to. Just really, you can spend a lot of time thinking about values, but once you get clear on them, it makes everything else so much easier.
For sure. Yeah. Like, I think one of the things that we've done as a family is we defined our values as a family.
Oh, that's great.
And so once I know that, okay, we value family time. Yeah. It helps me to say no to things too, right?
And it's a very simple thing. Yeah. It's like, oh yeah.
Yeah.
But that's important to me.
Yeah.
Quality is important to me. And, as, my kids, why are we spending money on this, but we won't spend on that? Because you're going to have that coat for 10 years.
Yeah.
That is a nice coat.
Yeah.
I mean, but I don't want to, So, but that's my value set, right?
Mm-hmm.
Like, it's going to be different from someone else. And that's, we just all are living through our own values, but those things kind of show up in everywhere in our lives. And they do with the people that we're, working with and the people that we're working for.
Yeah. And it kind of helps you decide who you want to work for too. Like,
absolutely.
It helps people know if they want to work for you. So if we're the ones creating our values or defining our values for ourselves, then our audience, whoever those people are that is our audience, also can identify with us. Like, okay, that company has some of the same values I have. I want to do business with them. I want to work with them.
Right.
And that I think that's important.
Right.
But I don't know if that's always been around.
I think so. I mean, you could get into religion and things like that and say, oh, okay, like I get it.
Yeah.
Like,
but from a business perspective, have businesses always?
Oh, sure.
Okay.
I mean, yeah, I'm trying to think of if you think of I'm trying to think of brands, Starbucks, community. I mean, how long was Starbucks? I mean, they haven't been around forever, but they've been around a long time. And everything is based on community.
Yeah.
Every little coffee shop, is based on community, about giving scholarships to kids at university. Like all the decisions they make are based around like we're the community coffee shop. Mm-hmm. Let's see. If you think about, hospitality brands like the Ritz. Yeah. The service. Yeah. Quality. Yeah. They value that. And I'm sure if you asked any one of those employees that have been there like 100 years or 40 years, whatever, they are so proud of their work. Do you know what I mean?
For sure.
They love it and they live it. Yeah. And it's something that's important to them. They take pride in that. I mean, I would say every brand, I would say that if you go all the way back to even the very first brands where people were packaging up flour and, putting their mark on it.
Yeah.
In a covered wagon,
Yeah.
they were probably had certain things that they were
valuing,
whether it's the quality or being able to make something specific or Morton salt,
yeah.
Anyway.
You're just dropping all the big brands.
Some brands have been around a
long time.
Yeah. It's pretty interesting.
Number 3 was know your audience. And we just kind of talked about that with the values, but knowing your audience is so important.
Yeah.
And
I think that's
it's key.
I think it kind of got more complicated for a while when it became just, about, it's not an easy thing to keep track of all your data and your people, but then just, then you kind of have this list and it's very easy to think of it as like, oh, it's just a bucket of email addresses and I think it's really important to humanize that and then think about the experience that person, the journey that person goes through and what their mindset is when they're, what happens, what's the trigger that happens to them before they decide they need it. There's all different kinds of businesses, but even if you think of nonprofits, right, especially people looking for those services, those clients, they're coming to that place of business, I guess you'd say, or that organization with needs in a very trauma centric place. And so those things become really important. How do they find us? How do they interact with us? How do we interact with them? What is that experience like for them? What do they need at the beginning of that experience? What does that look like when they come out of that experience? How do we re-engage them in our community to help us serve the next person? Those things can look different in different types of businesses and organizations, but I think if you look at the different types like that, then you can see like, oh, how does that play into even a business like mine where people have bosses and budgets and worries and considerations and things they need to get done. And So.
No, that's good. Number 4, test your ideas.
Test your ideas.
And you kind of gave an example of this, testing your ideas as far as them, I think it was the packaging.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
I love that.
Yeah, I love that too.
Case study because the thing I loved about that was just understanding it doesn't have to be super complicated, right? Like in the most simple form of that is to just get it out. You don't have to send it to everyone too. You could pick 5 people and send it to them. And let's say it's an email. Whatever the easiest form of it is. And then, just call that person and say, hey, could you just give me some feedback? I just sent you something.
Yeah.
Like, so easy to do.
Yeah.
Right. And then if it gets 5, 10, 20% better, or if I just didn't get that. Oh, well, I can just clarify that.
Yeah.
Well, what do I do after that? Am I supposed to click something? Oh, it just, well, how do I hire you for that? I didn't see how to do that. Well, that's good information.
Yeah.
So I just think that, there's just, it can be easy.
On the testing your ideas, like, what's the time frame on that? Like, is there any specific thing or thought on, like, okay, you got this thing, test it for at least 90 days?
I think that's just, it just depends on if you send it to 5 people and none of them get it, then it's not 90 days. It's right now. Like, I'm just going to fix it and I'm going to send it right back out to you. Is that better? Do you know what to do with it? And it could be lots of different things. It could be, I don't know. It could be just.
It kind of depends on the product too, right?
Yeah. And I think sometimes it's observation, right? If you put something out, even if you're not thinking of it as a test, and then you're watching what happens after, you're testing it.
Yeah.
Yeah. You're looking to see, I don't know if it's shoestrings and they don't stay tied, then like we need to.
That's not the thing.
Yeah, we need to fix that.
Yeah.
I don't know. It could just be anything. So I think it's just being present and just knowing when you push the button to not that you're not done. But I mean, prototypes could be comping something up and sticking it on the counter in a space and just seeing if people notice it and just changing it over time.
Yeah. No, that's good. I have a gentleman down the hallway here who he built these buckets or whatever for grows, for weed for forms, and the weed grows up through it or whatever the case may be. But he was talking about his testing, and he sent it out to 10 people. Yeah, they've been getting feedback on it. Yeah, and then the other day I was talking to him, he's like, "Yeah, we sending it to market. Like we put it online and we're selling it. You know."
Yeah, but, and it still may evolve. You're still going to have like, if you think about software and how it's like 1.0, well, okay, yeah, and then 1.2, 1.3. Yes. You know, we're used to seeing that in the software space, but I think you can, and things are changing so fast. The whole world is changing so fast. I just think that we just need to have a mindset of just, failing fast. Get it out there. Don't be afraid to fail. If it's not, what can you learn from it? And just, put it back together. And designers are trained to do that in school. So I think, we're a little bit, they put us in rooms and make us say all the things we hate about each other's work. And I mean, it's terrible. It's a massive tears and hardship, but then you get used to it.
You get used to people dogging you.
I think at some point you're just like, you get to see that there's a gift in every one of those comments. You see an opportunity to make it better. If you can get to that place where you're open and you're not defensive and you're looking at it more of like, oh, this is exciting. We're going to see something that we didn't know. Yeah. And also I think there is a knowing when to take that advice and not. That's why you need multiple people. Yeah. You don't need a ton of people, but you can, sometimes when you get feedback from people, I think it's better to do one-on-one than in a group because you'll get group think. People follow one person that's got a strong voice. So it's important to really, I think, and also not even ask people, sometimes just watch people. Okay. Because, sometimes people
that's good.
Will tell you, oh, I like this, this, and this, because they see themselves as part of a certain group or that would do those things. But then if you ask them to pour their purse out on the table, you would quickly see that they've got junk food in there and, that they are buying things maybe that don't align with that. And that's okay. That's not a judgment thing. I'm just saying that sometimes even we do that to ourselves, right? Yeah. I'm this kind of person. Then why don't I get up and work out every morning? Right? Or we need to better align with our own values, So
no, that's really good. That's really good. No, that is so good. And when you said they trained you in that with design, in being a design student, and people coming in and tearing your stuff apart or whatever. I feel like your response to the AI question earlier was that, like, you were okay with like, yeah, I just use it as a tool or whatever. Your response versus being negative about it, you made it into a positive.
Yeah. No, they will literally tear your stuff up, and you just have to go back and like it can't be. And still as creators, as makers, you still make stuff, and you don't want people to tear it up.
For sure.
But it makes for better work when you do all of that. When you do all of that, then when you finally get it, you get things out to market or in use, and then even for us, like one of our values is timelessness. Now, I don't mean things shouldn't change, but you want things that last a long time. And so just because you don't want to be changing your logo every 5 years.
The last one, number 5, standards and consistency.
Yes.
Standards is sexy.
I mean, to me it is. Well, I think one of the things, standards require us to kind of leave our personal stuff at home a little bit and conform, which I don't know if people like to do, but I do think that there is, it takes people 11 times. They have to see something or read something 11 times. If you're changing it every time, they will not remember it. And people get the most bored with their own stuff. So we hear that a lot, especially for designers that might be inside a company, and all they get to do is that company stuff, and they have to do it that way. You can have creativity within that, but you kind of have to have a mindset of like, okay, these are my, once you've lived in that discipline, you realize how much creativity that opens up to have all that other stuff locked down.
Yeah.
But it's definitely a perspective, right? For companies, if you can imagine, that are constantly wanting to send something out and thinking, well, what should that look like? And how should it be? There's just a ton of energy compounded on people trying to think about how something's supposed to look and act and be. When if you have all that nailed down, you can really focus on like what is the opportunity we're serving for here, and how does that tie into the big picture, and you can start to really develop programs and like work on other stuff that might be that you haven't had a chance to work on before because you've been too worried about what this about getting this one thing out the door.
Yeah.
So you can really have efficiencies and save time and spend time on things that are, I think, more important probably in the long run. Yeah.
When you just keep the standard. Just keep the standard of the consistent. Just be consistent in whatever you're doing, and then that way not feeling consistent.
Yeah. I mean, with messaging, the way you talk about your business, the way you and again, you want people. The best brands have been around forever. Like you want to have the same experience. It's why I still like McDonald's French fries. I try not to eat fast food, but I mean, you know what that's going to taste like. I know if I go to one in Albuquerque, it's going to be the same as
the one
somewhere else.
Yeah.
Like I get what I expect, and that makes me feel good when I'm, makes me feel good. So.
That's good. No, I was in my head, this may not be right, but standards are like uniforms.
Yeah.
Like everybody's going to show up, what they're going to wear. We don't have to have any problems.
Yes.
If every day you show up and work back according to our standards, we know where we're going to get.
Right.
Like just be consistent.
Yeah. If you walked into a business and every time there was just someone in a different outfit and maybe they were using different terms to explain something to you. I mean, even language becomes really important, like writing the language for your business that is in the voice that your audience understands, not the voice that you understand, then they're going to feel, you want them to feel comfortable.
For sure.
Yeah. So, all those things.
That's so good. I love it. Thank you so much for being willing to share all of this knowledge with us.
It's really fun.
Yes. And how can people find you?
Well, I've had the same website address since the 90s. So it's sdesigninc.com.
sdesigninc.com.
And it's
It'll be in the show notes too.
sdesign Inc. on all the social. So we're on LinkedIn and Twitter. And I mean, we actually don't spend a ton of time on Twitter, but
are you on Instagram or just
we have
LinkedIn?
Instagram.
Yeah, Instagram.
Yeah.
LinkedIn's your jam though. If you already have one.
I feel like, if you want to connect with me on LinkedIn and reach out to me on LinkedIn, I've got that up more just because I'm working with clients and stuff on there.
Yeah.
So
well, cool beans. Anything else you have on your mind these days?
No, just we're working on some big design thinking projects that are really fun. So that's just where my head is lately, and just how things. How all these design things connect together. It's fun to get to a place where I get to really use a bunch of cool people on my team and look at some big picture things and work on stuff like that. It's just fun.
I just wanted to come be a fly on the wall one day when y'all are like maybe in the discovery mode with somebody, or it's fun. Just sit in and listen to you all talk through things. And I'm sure is there whiteboards and sticky notes?
We like whiteboards and sticky notes for sure. We're doing a lot of stuff on Miro these days, which is
what's Miro? I don't know.
It's like an online whiteboarding platform.
Okay.
So you can basically we like to do research there because we can it's like you would have a whiteboard in your office, but our team is all remote.
Okay.
So everybody can be working on their research and putting it up on the wall, if you will, and then it's just kind of like an endless whiteboard. So you can scroll and see like, oh, there's all the
Oh,
persona mapping. And
have you seen the new app that Apple put out?
What is it?
Oh, what is it called?
It's Apple?
Yeah, it's Apple, but it's like that.
Oh.
It's like that where you can let me see. Hold on a second. But where you can it's like a giant whiteboard where you can put your thoughts and everybody can scroll through it. Apple's let me get this. I'm typing, ladies and gentlemen, if you're not watching.
I mean, I think that's one of the complex things is just like, you kind of got to pick some platforms and stick with them for a minute just so that everyone is fluent in them,
It's called Freeform.
Oh, Freeform. I'll have to check it out.
Yeah. It's Apple launches Freeform, a powerful new app designed for creative brainstorming and collaboration.
Ooh.
Yeah. And so it's kind of like what you just described when I'm looking at this picture on here.
Oh, great.
But yeah, it just came out too.
We do a lot of stuff on Zoom.
Oh, do y'all really?
Yeah, well, because our team is all remote.
Oh, remote. Oh, you mean like get on Zoom and work with each other?
Yeah. I mean, we sometimes the team members that are here will get together. And if we have a client here, we'll get together and do stuff in person. But, we got people California, Florida.
Has that been everybody work from home been okay with you, or was that something that you were already kind of doing before the pandemic, or is that something that y'all started doing more of?
We changed the model for S Design in 2015. So we were in 2015 we got rid of our 4,000 square foot studio space and moved, got a space that was a couple of desks in an architecture studio on Film Row downtown. But where we had meeting space and things like that, and we kind of had a community within a community with those businesses that were in that space with us, and then everybody else was working remotely. So we've been doing that for a long time, and which is great because then we get to kind of hire back some of our favorite people that we've worked with over the years that kind of grew up at S Design, and we all kind of have the same values and kind of love working together. It's like my new rules as I get older. All the kind people doing, challenging things, and that we trust each other, and you know what I mean. It's just like it makes that you can really focus on the work and push back on each other, and can all take criticism and it's good. So.
Yeah, doing would it be called service work? What it was, the work that y'all, since you all are providing a service for somebody else, it's probably hard, huh? Like, cause let's say you work for me, and I'm just every time you bring me something, and I'm picking a hole in it, right? Mm-hmm. Like, how do you?
Well, actually, we there's a word that's going around a lot now, co-create, but we've always kind of worked that way. So when we meet with you, we just discover with you, and we're doing reflecting back to you. Like, here's what we hear you saying. Mm-hmm. I mean, we're going to look at that through our perspective and say, we have some insights about that. Here's what we see. Yeah. And then you might say, oh, well, yeah, I never seen that like that before. And then we would say, well, how do you want to move forward? Like, do you want to move forward this way or this way? So every step of the way,
gotcha. Yeah,
we're not doing it. We're like a translation service for design. We're just helping you move through it. We're guiding you through that process. But it's, you know everything about your business. You know more than we do about your clients. Yeah. We can come in with fresh eyes and see things, and help you go through that and in a way that's organized and clarifying, and give it structure and help you meet your goals. But it's it's we're doing it for you.
Yeah.
So.
One day I'm gonna hire S Design for something. Just let y'all walk me through some stuff.
One day we're gonna get to work with you and bring you into some stuff that we're doing. It'll be fun. So.
It'll be real fun. Hey, ladies and gentlemen, thank you for hitting that play button once again for another episode of the Hetty Coleman Podcast. Go check out Sarah Sears. And as always, ladies and gentlemen, go win.